He said, I'm back to 20 a day on gas. Are you using StreamYard to get that money back? Not StreamYard, Upside. I sent you the link to Upside. Make sure that you try to get some of that money back in rebates, man. He said with less driving. $20 a day on gas is a lot of gas. That's still $100 in 5 days. Would you likely fill in your tank every other day, every third day of the week? Which means that you're probably spending about $500 or $600 a month on gas. That's a lot of money. Um, is it girls also? No. Actually, the enlistment got nothing to do with the. So that's the devastating part. So the way it works, I'm hoping that there's neutrality involved and everybody gets fucking drafted. But the way it used to be back after World War I, before the 70s and 80s, there was this enlistment requirement where every male over the age of 18, under the age of 26, that was not deemed disabled was supposed to enlist. There were certain exceptions that applied besides mental disabilities, physical disabilities, and being the only child might have exempt you uh, if you were like the last born or something like that, and the rest of your siblings went to war and died. Like if you were the last born, there might be an exemption there because you would carry on the legacy of your family. Now, the women didn't enlist. And this is where the women's suffrage came about, where the women were supposed to be petitioning for the ability to get out and work because their husbands were going to war. Nobody was working at the house. Back then, it wasn't send money back home to pay for the families. So the women had no income. And that's why they were like, wait, I can't be a stay at home wife while my husband is off in Germany somewhere in the middle of a war because who's paying for the bills? And that's when like women started going into the workforce kind of thing, but they fought for more responsibility, not the freedom from the responsibilities in the household, right? So it's a wild thing. But no, from what I understand, the women are not required to enlist. But I believe that um, the everybody who will be enlisted will be under in that bracket between 18 and 26. So if you're 25 right now and you're going to still be 25 come January 1st, they're going to enlist you and you might age out of the system at 26, 27 years old halfway through 2027. But if you're about to turn 18 in 2027 in January, you're going to be on the list. You're going to be one of the ones that's going to be on the list. Steven says these kids will have to put their iPads down long enough to do physical training. I can't see it. Well, all these kids out here with Glock switches blowing up their ops at the street corners. I mean, they'll be perfect for the front line. So I think that partially you would take a lot of these little kids off the street where they would not be able to run terror in our neighborhoods because they'll be so busy over there somewhere else trying to run terror somewhere else. Michael says everyone will be drafted under the age of 55. That's not going to happen. And one of the reasons being is because, well, who's going to infrastructure if everybody's drafted under the age of 55? That's the largest majority of the population. Um, I don't have to worry about that. I'm outside of the drafting range. He said, I believe in women's suffrage. I believe that women need to do more. That's what I believe. They're not gonna like what I gotta say about it. I believe that men do too much and women don't do enough. That's what I believe. They want to tack like 100% of the male responsibilities under the same umbrella as she gives birth. It's like, yeah, but I'm gonna fight and die for my country. I'm gonna fight and die for you. I'm gonna fight and die for the kids. I'm gonna all like you only put your life on the line the one time that you're pushing out the child for each child that you put out. And I put my life on the line every day of the week. That's not equivalence. I mean, yeah, the baby's heavy. So is carrying your purse. So is carrying you. You know what I mean? I could throw up some. I could throw up some equivalence, some equivalent exchange up in here. See, these females be trying to make it seem like they doing so much, and I'm like, I don't know. He says Xander going to war. Shit. Uh, he said they might draft you to drive the trucks. Well, Michael got a CDL. He is a nurse with a CDL, so he can check your pulse and drive your gas to your house all in the same, all under the same thing. Um, let's see what's going on. It's starting to get better. I'm ghosting off a lot of these cookies right now, just trying to, and these aren't even the edible kinds. These are just the ones that make your computer run slow. And I'm trying to wipe them out so that we can go ahead and get. But we're gonna go ahead and crush a lot of this stuff today. And I still believe that I should be able to conquer what I got to go for, because actually it's shorter than I thought. I thought this was going to be like a whole long drawn out scenario, but it's actually just like three concepts that should be potentially take us like 45 minutes plus discussion to cover, and then we're going to be able to walk out of here on time, in spite all of the difficulties, in spite all of the discomfort. Now, y'all know Two Harbors Coffee. These people would not be in business if they did not have me. I buy so much damn coffee, it's a shame. All right, so where are we at right now? All right, so we got that. We got this. I want to make sure I see y'all's comments. All right, here we go. Now, we're gonna talk about this observation because I know that a lot of people still got jobs. You guys notice that your paychecks are a little bit bigger, right? Since comparing your paycheck this year to what it was last year, your paychecks are noticeably bigger, right? But what if your check was noticeably smaller? That would be fucked up, wouldn't it? What if the services that you rely on vanished all of a sudden? This isn't just some classroom debate anymore because we recognize that there is a massive new bill known as Public Law 119-21, and we talked about it as the Big Beautiful Bill Act that went into action in 2025, right? And this shook everything up. Now, this isn't just another political headline because I've covered this shit before. This is going to be a major shift in the way we're going to be experiencing consequences for your money, your job, and your future. Now, the plan was supposed to either pump your bank up with money or update your financial world, depending on where you're sitting at in society, right? All while slashing government spending on things like green energy and food stamps. But this is going to be about more than just the one bill because it's part of a coordinated three-pronged push that's a fundamentally reshapable abstract that the nation's financial landscape is going to be modified by, right? So we're going to be talking about the huge tax and spending bill since we're experiencing it now, but it's going to be a complete top to bottom overhaul of the higher education funding and a dramatic federal intervention to roll back state level climate policies. He says, with inflation, big checks are noticeably smaller. Walmart is now a battleground for consumers. You know, like Walmart put themselves in the most influential spot that anybody could put themselves into because not only do they have online consumers, they're able to trigger drop shipping through their website because Walmart doesn't sell its own products. Walmart is a store. Yes, we have store brand products like Great Value that you can call that the Walmart brand, but that's just the generic brand. Walmart is a store that sells other people's shit. And Walmart is this online store now that sells other people's shit. So Walmart actually sold the picks and shovels. Everybody who wants their stuff sold wants it sold in a place where everybody's going to go look at it. Walmart's like, well, fuck, if you bring it here, everybody knows us. then how Walmart fixed the I'm too busy, the COVID protocols, the I don't have transportation situation, Walmart fucking delivers. So If you order it online, they deliver just like Amazon. And if you order it from the store, they deliver it just like Postmates and Instacart and Uber Eats. Everything that can be sold in the store, except for alcohol and tobacco products, can be bought from Walmart.com, the app, and then shipped directly to your house. Bro, all the consumers are battling over Walmart. Shit, 2 hours before the show, I ordered some shit to be dropped off this morning. By the time I get off from work, I'm gonna have groceries on my doorstep. I don't have to drive to the store. I got shit to do. I'm going to be driving to another on my day off. I got a 4 hour drive to another city with a 4 hour drive back. I'm not stopping at the grocery store. So the groceries are going to get dropped off at the house in the morning so that I don't have to go to the store this week. They did the damn thing when they did that. But yeah, you're right. With inflation going on and everything like that, everybody's check is going to be small as fuck. But what actually is in the tax cut package that actually occurred? Because I know that we talked about the no tax on tips and the no tax on overtime. But who are the real winners and losers in the bold new economic experiment? So today we're going to be breaking down all of this. We're going past the political spin to look at the hard numbers and the fine print and the direct impact that these changes will have on your wallet. So let's go back to the counterpiece, that one big beautiful bill, right? It's a massive reconciliation bill that touches nearly every part of the federal budget. And to get why it exists, you have to understand the problem that its architects says that they're solving. So the big bill was supposed to be a ticketing time bomb that was called the fiscal cliff, right? Because there was a huge tax cut from 2017, where mostly temporary for individuals and were set to expire at the end of 2025 if Congress didn't do anything about it. And that's one of the reasons why the big beautiful bill was passed in September of 2025. So almost everybody would have had to face bigger tax hikes. So the Republicans' argument was simple: the uncertainty was dragging down the economy. And the best way to unleash prosperity was to give American families and the businesses permanent tax relief. So their solution was the big beautiful bill. But it's a lot more than just a simple extension. It makes many of the 2017 tax cuts permanent and creates entirely new ones, and pays for a fraction of it with deep controversial cuts to government spending. So let's break down what and who gets what, right? So for most people, the bottom line is what matters. How does it affect my take home pay? Well, the bill changed the tax code, and this is going to be done in a way that is very widely depending on your income and your family situation. So the bill makes many of the expiring individual cuts from 2017 laws permanent, and this is going to be the bedrock of the package, and it's going to keep seven bracket tax rate structure with the top rate of 37% still existing, preventing the tax increase for a huge majority of taxpayers. Now, the bill is also going to, it also made the higher standard deductions from 2017 permanently law. And it added a temporary sweetener on top of that. So for the tax year 2025 through 2028, there's going to be a fixed dollar boost where there's an extra $750 for single filers and an extra $1,500 for married couples filing joint. For married couples, that means that there's a standard deduction that will be another $1,500 higher for the next few years, shielding more of their income from taxes. Now, with the question that was asked yesterday on the show was, do I believe in marriage or not? And when I was talking about it being a financial arrangement, not something that's done out of faith under the eyes of the Lord or because you specifically love the individual, this tax cut is for married people. You say, and $1,500 isn't a lot of money, but $1,500 is a lot of money when you're talking about tax dollars. Because if your whole tax bill turns out to be like $5,000, and they're gonna buffer you an extra $1,500 towards that, you're able to say, sweet, I don't have to spend as much, right? Which is a miraculous improvement, right? And that means that if you're entitled to a refund, your refund is just that much bigger. People don't pay attention to that. When you think about the refund itself, because people think about the taxation, they think about how much more they might have to give the United States government after they've already had their whole fucking paycheck gutted for the entire year. No, no, you are already robbed 12 months ago. What matters is how much of it are they going to give you back. Now, out of the money they took from you, they're supposed to calculate how much they should have taken from you versus how much they're supposed to give back to you. And if you have an extra $1,500 there that you're entitled to, they're not supposed to take that from you, which means you get a larger reimbursement. So if you were supposed to get, like I said, a $5,000 return, they took 6,000. You got this extra $1,500 there. You might actually get an extra $1,500 back out of the $7,000 that they took out of your check for the entire fiscal year. And that's not the overtime reimbursement hours that you're supposed to be getting because they weren't supposed to take that out. You know what I mean? So when you think about getting married, the difference between filing individual, where I get 100% of my money and you get 100% of your money, and us filing joint benefits single income households where it's me and my wife under one income. We get 150% back. And then I can claim my wife and my kids as like the dependents. I'm the head of household, and we get all of this extra benefits because I'm spending a lot of money on a lot of people that's not actually working. Right now, if my wife is actually filing, she's got money and I've got money too, and we file joint, we're technically taking a 50% pay cut because out of however much we're entitled to, we're only going to get 150% of what I would have gotten if I filed by myself, or what she would have gotten if she filed by herself. We would only get 150% if we filed together. So for married couples, it only benefits a married couple to file separate, where I get my tax break, you get your tax break, and we get 200% of two people filing, right? Because otherwise, we're losing 50% of what we're entitled to, right? Now, next up, we're going to be talking about the families with kids. Remember, I told you guys about the child tax credit that was supposed to get a bump and increased $200 to around $2,200. It was supposed to level off at $2,500, but it settled at $2,200. So the rules are also going to be tightened, requiring a social security number to claim the credit. So if you do anything for the kid, you've got to get the kid's social security number and identification information so that you can prove to the government that your money went towards that child. If not, then it's just money lost. So if you're in one of those where you're in the legal system, your judge hits you with child support court order, you need to file whatever petition that's necessary to file so that the judge can order the people to give you the information that you need to um, claim your child as a dependent on your tax papers if you don't already have a copy of that information. Even if you're already funding them the money, you got to get proof before the end of the tax season that who this kid is and all this other information. Because you can't just slap a Jane Doe name on your social security number on your tax form. They're going to investigate that and be like, who is this kid? You got to be able to show who is this kid. Even if you were to try to say, well, I'm going to send a court order with my tax forms that shows that I'm paying child support in such and such scenario. That might fly. I don't know. But you have to show enough proof that I am in fact paying for child support. Please give me the tax credit. And if you qualify for the information, they'll give you the tax credit. But if it's your first year filing like that, you're probably going to have some delays on your refund. Now, the bill also created new targeted tax breaks. One of the most talked about is going to be the temporary relief for taxes on the tips and overtime. So we gave you guys a clear indication on that, where the law had created deductions for incomes up to $25,000 worth of tips and up to $12,500 in overtime hours. I thought that was the other way around, but This benefit was supposed to phase out for higher earners. And remember when I was talking to you guys about overtime hours and tips, and I was talking about how the refund was happening, where if you had roughly $25,000 worth of uh, uh, tax return money coming to you in 2025, and then you had one or two kids that would have gave you that other $5,000 worth of child tax credits, you would have had upward of 30 grand in your rebate for your 2025, 2026 taxation. And that's where all that money was going towards prom because those parents was getting all those overtime hours sent back to them. And then they were getting all that extra money for childcare. And they just went nuts with it. It stimulated the economy, all right, but all the broke folks are still broke. Now, it's not a total elimination of taxes on that income, but it is a significant break designed to appeal directly to the service industry workers and hourly employees. Now, seniors also got a discount. They got a dedicated tax break. So the bill introduced a new additional standard deduction for the seniors with incomes under $75,000 a year. So if you're old and you're a senior couple on a fixed income, this extra deduction could significantly lower your tax bill. And then there was the SALT deduction, state and local tax. And this has been a thorn in everyone's side for years, where there's a deduction that is now capped at $10,000 in 2017, which was a big hit for people in higher tax states. And that offered a temporary compromise. Now, the law raises the SALT cap to $40,000 from 2025 through 2029, but this benefit is phased out for taxpayers making between $500,000 and $600,000 a year. Now, this was a huge win for some higher income earners in blue states and was critically uh, getting certain Republican representatives on board with the big beautiful bill idea because they were actually um, preventing state tax from being so fucking high, right? So salt used to start at $10,000, meaning that if you crossed over $10,000, you had to start paying taxes. Now it's like, well, you got to cross over 40,000 now. Now, individual cuts are only half the story. There was an arguably more impactful half. And this is the overhauling of the tax businesses, which I haven't talked a lot about because I only talk about how this directly impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Now, the philosophy is clear. Cutting taxes on businesses will spur investment, create jobs, and grow the economy for everyone. Now, the bill locks in the 21% corporate tax rate permanently, but the real action is for the other businesses. One of the biggest changes in the qualified business income or QBI deduction is this: the tax breaks for pass through businesses like LLCs and sole proprietorships, which is what I've been begging you guys to figure out for the last 9 months. I've been saying, matter of fact, almost a year. It's been a year because I was talking about this in July, September, and August of last year. The pass through business tax credits for LLCs and sole proprietorships. The big beautiful bill made the percentage deduction permanent at 20%, then increases it to 23%, right? Um, for small business owners, that's a direct and substantial tax cut because if you're capped, meaning no matter how much money you burn or how much money you make, they're only going to tax you 20% of that. And then any increases will be right at 23%. So you make $100,000, you only owe like 20 grand. You make $200,000, you might like 46 grand, right? But that's it. Now that's um, before you start calculating all of those deductions and tax cuts. Now another major provision is permanent full expensing for qualified business investments. This is where I tell you guys that a lot of the shit that you buy um, under your LLC or your C corporation that is like per diem reimbursements and stuff to that effect, uh, are things that could have been a tax deduction for somebody that's generating a decent quantity of revenue. So instead of taking your paycheck, your W 2 paycheck, and throwing a birthday party for yourself, you would instead set up a soiree or a meet and greet for a bunch of successful business investors, and then um, meet a bunch of businesses, introduce yourself to a bunch of people, and talk business for a few minutes and then or half an hour or whatever, and then celebrate your birthday after that, right? And I know that the first time you do it, you ain't nobody, don't nobody really know you. But like for example, Steven's in college. He's going into the mental health industry after he gets out of college. Um, every professional that could potentially offer him a shadowing position or an understudy position, if he is near their office, he could establish a meet and greet for all of the professionals that's inside of that field, and then invite everybody to the same place at the same time, and then show up to that location, meeting all of these doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, therapists, and all this other shit, and then bring out some birthday cake and some champagne and everything to that effect, and celebrate your birthday with these professionals. And that would not only build a network of people that you will know before you get out of college, but it'll also crack open the door of opportunities for you through college. Because now that they knew who you are, when your name crosses their desk in a resume, requesting internship, requesting shadowing, requesting some type of undergrad performance that would expedite your ability to succeed fresh out of college, they already know who you are because they were at your party, they had a good time, it was your birthday, they sung you happy birthday, they got free cake, free drink, blah blah blah. But for you as an LLC or C corporation, that shit would have been written off on your taxes. So technically it was free. If you owed Uncle Sam $10,000 and you spent $500 on this event, $500 less that Uncle Sam's going to take out of your pocket, right? Steven says, I would invest in a lot of chicken wings if there were business owners. Well, you could. Now, here's a funny scenario because true chicken wings are like really small chickens. 'Cause they're like the little wings, the little legs, whatever, whatever. Now, the the wild part about it is that when we were younger, the chicken wings were fucking adult chickens. So a chicken leg was the size of this cup. We had a chicken wing or a thigh that was like half the size of this cup. Now, you could probably fit 20 wings inside of this cup. They've gotten so fucking small. If I was going to invest in true chicken wings, I would have to go to Walmart or BJ's or Sam's Club or something like that and buy 4 or 5 packs of actual chicken, season them up like wings, deep fry them like wings, and then serve them up like big ass jumbo sized wings. That, no lie, if you said that we was gonna have wings, cake, chips, and nachos, and they go to the buffet and they see these big ass Fred Flintstone looking ass chicken pieces, talking about some KFC sized chicken pieces, talking about some wings. Yeah, like 2 pieces, that'll fill me up. There's a lot of fucking chicken over here. Like everybody, they'll be talking about your event for a long time. Like, damn, he had big ass chicken wings at his party. I ain't seen chicken wings that big since the 80s. Some shit like that. But you'll be a person to be remembered. He says, is the bill good for us? If you know what you're doing, the bill is good for you. If you are ignoring what it can do for you, then no, it's not good for you at all. Because the average American that doesn't pay attention to shit, the average American that doesn't come to the show every night of the week, only benefits from if they report their tips that were taxed, and if they report the overtime that was taxed. They don't do anything but file their W 2 and pray that they get a return, they miss out on even that. If they go to H&R Block, they're going to pay this person $500 to find the shit that you didn't pay attention to when you could have did it yourself with TurboTax, right? Either way, when you file taxes using a specialized tax assistant, that's also a tax deduction. You just got to itemize that in next year's taxation. But say, for example, take you, Michael, you have a hobby of buying stuff from estate sales, garage sales, and auctions. You could be an antique store as an LLC, picking up all kinds of antique shit. Now, what that means is that any taxable income that you would have had would have to be reported, but you get the deductions of storing the property if you had to store it at your house. So part of your house is part of the business. You have the vehicle that you're transporting the goods to and from, the work vehicle. That's a deduction, which means that the gas that you spend would be a deduction, which means that the repairs on a vehicle would be a deduction. Your cell phone to connect to all of these people, to go to these locations and make these deals, to sell stuff, to buy stuff would be a deduction. Your internet that you use to put the stuff up online and sell it would be a deduction. The websites that you have to pay for to put the stuff online to promote it would be a deduction. The food that you're eating while you're out here talking deal with people who are trying to buy products from you would be a deduction. The clothes that you wear that's considered work uniforms when you're out here presenting yourself as an antique seller, that could be a deduction. So there's so much stuff in your life that if you had those pass-through tax deductions, that you could also you could not only be running a pretty damn good small business, you could scale that small business, hire employees, W-2 a lot of them out, 1099 them motherfuckers if you really make them pay their own fucking taxes, and set yourself up where on paper you have a zero tax bill, but a decent quantity of profit coming back to you, if you did it wisely. People sleep on it because what broke folks try to do is they try to create a shell company, right? And then go work at Walmart, right? And then try to pass that through their shell company, right? But their shell company ain't doing shit, right? So then they try to see if they can get some deductions off of that. I mean, maybe, but not nearly as what you would have done if you were making money under that tax identification number, the employee tax identification number. So, oh yeah, definitely convenience does sell. So that's one of the reasons why we got to pay attention to the way laws change and how they impact us. And this law has been in effect for almost a year now, because if I remember correctly, the big beautiful bill was passed in September 25, right? So in simple terms, if you have a company that buys new equipment, it can deduct the full cost from its taxes in the same year that it bought the new equipment. So like Steven, you're buying computers for college. If you had a business that was a tech company of some sort, building websites and whatever the case may be, you start buying MacBook Pros for your college. You ride that off on your tax bill for your business, which actually makes sense if you're trying to do a startup online where you're creating websites and back office hardware work like I gave you guys before in January and February as different ways to turn a side hustle. The computer, the programs run on a computer, the customer support for the websites of the computer, all of that shit is tax deductible off of the business. Now, you take that same computer and go to school, and now you don't have to spend, your government money on your laptop because your LLC pays for your laptop, right? And this is going to be, instead of using like depreciating costs over the years that you have the item. So this is dramatically going to lower the cost of investment, because anything that you buy as the founder of the company, you're going to be the first person entitled to reimbursement whenever the business does good. So this is going to create a powerful incentive for businesses in industries like manufacturing, construction to expand. Now, the law also adjusts complex international tax rules, which is what I was talking to you guys about when we talked about international investing, different countries that we can make, save, and invest in, because there's some known as the GILT or GILTI, the FDII, because it's FD2, and then the BEAT to make the United States more attractive for multinational or multinational corporations, which I keep encouraging people to do because if you set up and establish a business in one city or state and foreign domestic in another city or state, you start doing a good job with your business operating in more than one state, then you decide to fly to another country on a vacation covered by the business and establish a the same business in another country, guess what? One, you're on a business visa, not a tourist visa, which gives you 12 months in that country, but you can establish that business from the ground up in that 12 months. And depending on where you are, like Japan, special economic zones, they'll give you some reimbursements. All you got to do is hire two Japanese people to run the business for you. So your goal is to perfect it in America, where two people can do the operation for you, take some of the profits, go to Japan, and then perfect it in Japan and hire three or four Japanese people and have them run the business. And now you got an international. And in Japan, you can do foreign domestic where you don't need to have a native have 60% ownership of your business. You can have 100% ownership of your business and go over there and start something from the ground up. And that makes way more sense than trying to squeeze in on a 90-day tourist visa and then fly from Japan to Tokyo back to Japan, trying to stay in Japan for a year by cross border runs. The goal is going to be to encourage companies to keep their intellectual property, and then their profits are going to be right here in the United States. Right. So, with trillions of dollars in tax cuts, how is all of this paid for? Short answer: it's mostly not. The bill does include a series of deep and controversial spending cuts. The most significant cut hits America's Social Security and their safety nets. This is the first target is going to be the Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Programs, or SNAP, often called food stamps. For Medicaid, the law imposed what the Brookings Institution analyzes as a 12% budget reduction over time. So it's introducing a new work requirement and tightens eligibility checks. So for SNAP, it expands work requirements and makes other changes that are projected to cut spending by $186 billion over the next decade. Supporters call these common sense reforms to encourage work, while opponents see these as an attack on the variable, vulnerable individuals that will cause people to lose access to food and Medicare, which in some areas people will resort to um, nonviolent crimes like theft or fraud or sort of identity theft or laundering in order to take care of their bare necessities, which is what Sterling was trying to articulate on the show a few weeks back. That some poor people are financially desperate, and because they're financially desperate, they're willing to commit small scale crime in order to get enough money to make ends meet. People who sell their food stamps two stamps for $1 so that they can get cash to buy something when all they have left is food stamps. Uh, People who use gift cards inappropriately to scam money off the gift cards, buying a bunch of purchases and then throwing a card away, stuff to that effect. Um, all kinds of things that people do to get extra money that they didn't earn because they need food and they don't have enough money to buy food. The observation was that highly likely that more people would be putting more effort into getting the money inappropriately instead of getting the money legitimately if there wasn't enough food assistance around. Now, this also works towards like panhandlers and other such individuals who would be out there begging for money or stealing from stores and other such things because they don't have enough money to buy their own food and they don't have a job. and they don't have a place to live, so they don't have an address to register, and they don't have a place to take a shower, so their hygiene isn't satisfactory for the job, so they can't maintain the job or obtain a job, and then all of that boils back on their inability to get something to eat. So there's like a double-edged sword on that. Now, the other major area of cuts is going to be clean energy. Now, the bill accelerates the phase out of a wide range of tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act, and this includes popular credits for buying a new and used electric vehicle. Y'all know that September 30th of 2025, Elon's stock tanked. Technically, it went down like 14%, but I'm going to say it tanked because they stopped giving those EV tax credits. Then the installing roof solar panels, they cut that too, which terminates after 2025. So you used to be able to get a bunch of money for buying a bunch of solar panels. Nope, not anymore. This is a clear pivot away from green technology and back towards the traditional energy sources, which is Donald Trump getting all that fucking oil. I'm trying to tell you everything happens for a reason. However, these cuts are paired with massive new spending because the same bill allocated an additional $150 billion for the Department of Defense and another $150 billion for border enforcement and deportations initiative, which was really wild because the remember when the Democrats didn't want to sign off on the legislation in January, what led to the shutdown in 2026 because the Democrats were trying to protect the American public with ICE agents masking themselves and attacking people and murdering people in the streets unnecessarily. While, yes, you would have probable cause to arrest these people for interfering, no, you didn't have to kill them. The fact is that the Democrats were fighting an uphill battle at that time because the Department of Defense paid ICE agents out of a $150 billion border enforcement bill that had nothing to do with TSA getting paid. That had nothing to do with regular federal agents getting paid. Just immigration, just ICE had a $150 billion border patrol enforcement initiative. And that's one of the reasons why the government shut down between January and March of 2026, because these guys are getting paid until like this time next year out of that $150 billion bill. So that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump signed an executive order that allowed them to transition some money from this bill to other Department of Defense individuals like TSA, because TSA is part of the Department of Defense. They just wasn't included in the bill when the money got shipped out. Steven says, I got a few cents of Elon's stock. You got some of that Tesla stock too, huh? I sold mine. I think I had like 25 cents or 23 to 25 cents worth of Elon stock, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna sell that, and I'm gonna get some more of that Erie stock. I'm gonna I wanted to make sure that I boost all of my stocks, all of the stocks that we have been talking about, the 21 stocks that you and I have been talking about in the membership. I wanted to make sure that I pushed all of those stocks up above uh, standard levels to make sure that they stood out from the ones that came to me from the stock party. Special shout out to Daniel. Good to see you, Daniel Barris. Roll call. You. Wow, wow. 6 7. ah. Oh, now it's working. Look at that. It took me a 45 minutes to wipe the computer while using it. Son of a bitch. Okay, yeah, I gotta buy me a new computer. Yeah, that been called me like 4 bands though, so I'm not gonna do it yet. So this new bill that they were going to be paying ICE agents, this isn't just about cutting the budget. It's going to be a radical reprioritization of the federal money. So what happens when you combine trillions in tax cuts with spending cuts that only covers a fraction of the cost? Well, you get a massive increase on the national debt, which we haven't covered on the show yet, but I have found that the national debt is outpacing Social Security disability, and that is going to become a problem coming soon. So, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, why would you name a group that? The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, RFB. The Big Beautiful Bill is a project to add about $2.4 trillion to our deficit over the next decade, or $3 trillion, including interest. So we're going to be looking at closer to $35 trillion by the time he's done with us. So if temporary provisions are extended, that number is going to swell to about $5 trillion. So to handle this, the bill also raised the debt limit by about $5 trillion, meaning that the government is capped at about $35 trillion. And then after that, we got to start paying some debts. Now, the proponents argue that the tax cuts will spark enough economic growth to pay for themselves. However, most mainstream economic models project that growth will only cover a small portion of the cost, with the vast majority of financed by the debt. And it's going to be new debt that's going to be financing the old debt. You ask me, how does that work? Treasury bonds. Well, every time somebody buys a treasury bond, they're buying the debt. $35 trillion worth of treasury bonds is out there, and $35 trillion worth of debt is bought with the treasury bonds, then you have $35 trillion worth of money to pay for $35 trillion worth of debt that you owe. You have not paid the debt, and you owe other people potentially another $1 trillion worth of interest on them holding your debt for you, which kind of creeps your ass up to about $36 trillion in debt. But you got more money to spend. This is like overdrawing your credit card and then bouncing a check to pay off your credit card. Still don't got any extra money in your fucking pocket, but your credit card is paid off because you overdrafted your bank account. That's kind of how this is working. He said, where do you go to buy a bond? Um, that's a good question. Uh, and it looks like I might be able to provide you with that answer now that the computer's working. Because I'm getting the exact link to where you can buy the official treasury bonds from. Um, so that you go to an official government protected site, because there's a lot of frauds out there that try to scam this shit. So it has to be a government protected site if you're going to do this. And those government protected sites, you can call them and talk to them, and they should be Americans that answer the phone. And they're going to be very intrusive and very disrespectful. You'll know that it's government. You'll know it's government because of how they treat you. You know it's government. They're not going to be eager to take your money. They're going to be assholes because it's government. Hey, because we don't need you. You called us, kind of shit. Okay, so hold on. We're gonna try to pull this up, but damn, see that when I pulled that extra window up, everything stopped working the way it was supposed to work. Let me see if I can. Hold on, hold on. That's not gonna work the way I want it to work. We're gonna get the answer to your question here. At least the live is working halfway decent. It's the post live that doesn't look too hot. Oh, I think the Google browser is crashed. All right, hold on a second. Oh, okay, now it's starting to catch up. Okay, so we're gonna do it over here. Try to open up a third window. I think I just have too many windows open. Um, because every time I try to do something, it kind of just lags out. And then when I try to look it up, it takes me all the way to YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, Yahoo. And I'm like, I don't fuck with Yahoo. Fuck Yahoo. Yahoo is outdated like MySpace. All right, let me see if I can pull this up in another way. Because every time I get ready to start typing some shit, it starts showing me some. Not showing me. It starts slowing down. Let me see. Maybe I can do it on my phone, and then we could try to put it into the type it in and put it into the membership. Um, I'm to treasury bonds. All right. So, asshole. Now it's going. Oh, that's why, because Americans be using Chat GTP. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not trying to do Chat GTP. That is an inferior situation. That is a highly inferior situation. No wonder people don't know what the fuck they can't do their own research. All right, all right, okay. So okay. So we got Treasury Direct, or through most major online brokerage accounts such as Fidelity or Vanguard. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna answer your question with a question. Um, and we're gonna try to get this up there. Oh, you know what? You do make a lot of sense. I should just put that in the membership. I thought I had put it in the membership once before. No, not about treasury bonds. I put up about brokerage accounts, not about treasury bonds. All right, that actually is a fantastic idea because this is not doing what we want it to do. So you put it on the memberships. When my CDs mature, I'll change over. True, true, because a treasury bond is better operating uh, with your wealth as a tax deferred option instead of CDs because CDs don't really do too much for you. So yeah, I would encourage you to switch over as your CDs mature to treasury bonds because treasury bonds are not going to tax you the same way CDs will tax you. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and crash that. One more site we're crashing here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get back onto the main topic. There we go. Now we're moving. Oh Lord, there's always got to be at least one hard day out of the week. So I'm gonna get that to you after tonight's show. I'm gonna put it into the membership for you about the different places that you can go for to get the treasury bonds. Appreciate you reminding me of that because I'm sitting over here like I'm gonna get it for you right now. No. So this is supposed to set up a stark economic reality. No worries, we're halfway, three-quarters of the way through. So even though we've been dealing with a lot of bullshit, we're almost done because we're going to talk about the education, and then we're going to be talking about um, the the um, the stuff about the energy bill. So in short, the bill was likely supposed to boost the, but more money in people's pockets should fuel spending and investments, and that's what people are believing. In the long term, though, the huge increase in debt creates major risks, potentially leading to higher interest rates, even more inflation, and the need for even more drastic measures down the road. But they always potentially kick the football down the street anyway, which prevents the current president from having to deal with the bullshit. Happening in parallel with the tax bill was an equally revolutionary overhaul of the education and finance. Now, the old confusing system of income driven repayments or IDR plans is being swept away. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this part because this just happened. Now, a move justified as a way to simplify the system that had become overwhelming for borrowers, is what we're dealing with this month. The core idea is to collapse today's complex menu of IDR plans into two structured options. Beginning July 1st of 2026, new borrowers, meaning people who haven't been borrowing money from them already, will have two main federal repayment choices. First is the Repayment Assistance Plan, or RAP, not M&M rap. This is going to be a single income based plan. Monthly payments are set on a sliding scale from about 1% to 10% of a borrower's income, with the share scaling up as income rises. Now, this is designed to prevent payment shock for lower earners. Some drafts also include a flat $50 per dependent child reduction in the monthly payments. Now, think about this. If you had, say, a $50,000 a year income and they said 10%, you owe them $5,000 for the year. That is going to be less than $300 a month. Um, Imagine if they said 1% on that $50,000 a year. That would be like $500 out of your five or out of your $50,000. And if that $500 is divided across 10 months or 12 months, you're paying less than $50 a month for your student loans. Now, including a $50 per dependent child reduction in your monthly payments, which means that if in the event that you have like a $150 a month payment that you owed and you had three kids, instead of you breaking the bank trying to pay student loans and buying diapers, you would likely not have to pay that 150 bucks. To prevent balances from ballooning, the plan also features a matching principal payment from the government and waives remaining monthly interest from those making on time payments. So if you always give them some money towards your student loan, eventually they'll start saying, you know what, fuck this bill, you straight. The second option is a tiered standard repayment plan. Now, this offers a fixed payment uh, over 10, 15, 20, or even 25 years, with the term length depending on the total amount borrowed. Now, this structure is predictable but less flexible if a borrower's income drops. For borrowers already in legacy plans, meaning that they're in the old school uh, uh, system like pay, or repay plans, there is a transition window lasting until the middle of 2028 in some proposals to either move to one of the new plans or stay in a simplified version of the old income based repayment plan. Now, Stephen, if you're one of those individuals who don't have any student loans yet and you're about to start getting those student loans, you might want to get into the option one with the sliding scale. Also recognizing that they do typically defer your student loans until 6 months after you graduate from college, you would recognize that you have two options with your student loans, which option one would be subsidized loans, where they delay interest charges to your money until after you get out of college, and then unsubsidized, where they start charging you interest when they issue you the money. And they defer payments on both of those until after you get out of school. If you had a $2,500 subsidized loan and a $2,500 unsubsidized loan, which will give you a total of $5,000 worth of loan money, If they offered it at an average rate of about 7% for half of the money and deferred it for the other half of the money, then you would ultimately be experiencing something close to 3.5% across the whole 5,000 that you borrowed for this year. Because remember, they're not charging you interest for the subsidizing until after you get out of school. Now, if you can pull back a $5,000 loan with 3.5% of it being charged interest right now, and you put that $5,000 into a brokerage account that's getting you back 15% return on investment, you have a 10% profit. Even if the government took 3% of that profit as taxation, you still have a 7% profit on your student loans, of which you are not obligated to pay back until after you get out of college. So the plus side is that you would be able to year over year explode your portfolio utilizing student loans, because once they give it to you, they don't care what you do with it. You just got to pay them back when they say pay them back. But if you get that sliding scale situation where they're looking at your regular income and they say, okay, well, give us $300 a month, and you give it to them. Well, shit, if you're making $3,000 a month and they ask you for $300 a month, who gives a fuck? What if they charged you 10%? What if they said, well, give us $500 a month because you make so much money, you got this brokerage account sitting off to the side? Well, again, if you've got $2, 3, $4,000 a month being paid to you from the brokerage account, does it matter if they ask you for $500 a month? It does not. And as long as you're paying them on time with the money from the brokerage account, eventually, not only is this a tax deduction until tax laws change, but eventually they're going to tell you don't worry about it. And as the debt goes down, your credit score goes up. So what's going to be the substantial change? The new framework is billed as simplification and affordability. But critics note that the loan forgiveness is significantly narrowed or delayed because forgiveness under the new RAP plan, for instance, only comes after 30 years of payments, dedicated to be longer than many of the previous plans. So you get out of college in, say, 2030, you'll still be paying for your college in, say, 2060. Well, if from 2026 to 2030, you were getting $10,000 a year from your college, that's 30 grand. Now, if you're doing a good job with your return on investment, by 2030, that 30 grand should have done one or two things. Made it to 300 grand if you're not adding much of anything to it, or paid off your student loans in full. One of the two. Now, in the long run, many borrowers may end up repaying more than what they borrowed from the government because you're mostly paying for interest over the course of 30 years and not so much paying on the principal, even with lower initial monthly payments. Because if you're paying the bare minimum, the majority of your payment is going towards the interest rates, not the principal. But this is going to be because subsidies and forgiveness routes have been tightened. Now, the impact varies depending on the borrower because low to moderate income borrowers will, with steady earnings, might benefit from lower monthly payments and interest controls, but they might lose the chance for the kind of loan discharge that is available after 20 to 25 years under older plans. Meanwhile, high debt, low income borrowers, like many with graduate degrees, could be worse off, and forgiveness options are going to be cut back and payments increase with higher income. So they might charge you a shit ton more if y'all ass wasn't prepared and y'all didn't see this before y'all started spending y'all money, and now y'all ain't got a pot neither window and they looking for their money back. Yes, the government does garnish wages for student loan repayments if you have a job and they did not permanently defer your student loan bill for a disability that you received. Now, this is going to be the all part of the broader reboot portion of higher education and financing, because the grad plus loan program, which allows for grad students to borrow up to their full cost of attendance, has been eliminated for new borrowers. I told y'all to get it while it was available. It has wrapped itself up for June of 2026. So the hard annual and lifetime borrowing caps are now in place. That $200,000 for the rest of your life is all that you're going to get. Perhaps most revolutionary is a new skin in the game provision for colleges. For the first time, university programs will lose eligibility for federal student loans if their graduates don't earn more than a typical high school graduate, which means more people that walk out of their college without a job are not going to be getting as much funding anymore. Proponents hail this as overdue accountability, because the majority of the fast food workers in middle management in every industry, it got 2 or 3 degrees, and I mean some damn good degrees, master's degrees and other such shit. And you see them looking like hell trying to run that drive-through, and they ain't making but like 70, 80,000 a year at best as a store manager, 50, 60,000 a year as a shift manager, and you got to have a degree to get to that. But you could have also worked on a job for 20 years and got that same title as a high school dropout. Now, critics warn that it could cause schools to shut down programs in the arts and humanities, because College of Arts and Science, everybody that goes there typically tries to get a biology or microbiology degree, and that's supposed to take them into the medicine field. And not everybody makes it into the medicine field. And those people who fail to get into the medicine field typically find themselves doing something that doesn't satisfy the degree that they got. Humanities, it, there's nothing in humanities that gives you a really good job, to my knowledge. You've got like nursing, you've got fitness trainers, you've got other such looking out for other people's kind of jobs, and all of the jobs that are designed to improve other people's lives directly are jobs that are low paying jobs. Because one, if you're a life coach, you're getting paid by the client, and not a lot of people got money to pay you. There isn't a big business that's sitting there like life coach or us kind of shit. So you find yourself in a situation where, while this is a reputable degree with a reputable field that probably isn't even oversaturated, it is just a fitness coach or a personal trainer might need 20 or 30 clients in order to be able to pay their bills, 40 or 50 clients or 100 clients to be able to pay for the facility that they're borrowing in order to pay their bills. So you might find yourself getting a degree as a fitness instructor, or getting a degree so that you can become a fitness instructor, and then going to work at a Planet Fitness for minimum wage, because they're subcontracting you as a fitness instructor and then providing you with their clientele from under their membership, right? So you end up not making nearly as much as what you thought you were going to make, but you still got all of the student debt. Now, the final pillar is going to be a direct confrontation with state led climate policies, because with California in the crosshairs, we have to start talking about how I am so glad I don't live there. Now, for years, California used a special EPA waiver to set its own tough vehicle emission standards, which many other states adopted. And I understand that it makes California look beautiful, right? Almost like Florida, right? No smog, no like hard emissions where you can't see the sunlight because of the huge clouds of pollution overhead. Like you can breathe. Not enough, because with all the forest fires from all the people flicking cigarettes out there, they need some work. But the fact is that you don't have a car passing by with no exhaust choking you out all the time. And they still got some, but not a lot of, right? And that's where all of the electric cars are really booming. The market for electric cars and self-driving vehicles are really doing its thing in California, right? Now, the culminated rules to effectively ban the sale of new gas only cars in the state by 2035 is one of the things that California has decided to put in place. Now, I just want to talk about how this works because if California outlaws gas only vehicles, they would effectively be allowing nothing less than a hybrid electric vehicle or at best a mono electric vehicle, which would essentially remove millions of Americans from the oil industry. I just want to point out how this shit's working out. Okay. Now, once Donald Trump found out that millions of Americans was not going to be involved in oil by 2025 or 2035, the new administration saw this as a state dictating national energy policies. They had a I can't believe you're stopping oil from coming in your state rally. That's what just happened. So, using the Congressional Review Act, Congress passed and the president quickly signed a resolution in June 2025 that nullified California's waiver of its Advanced Clean Cars Rule 2. Now, that single action invalidated the 2035 gas car plan and related rules. And actually, I think they might have passed that law in June of 2026. And verify that while we sitting over here talking. Um, because I just seen that in the information just like for want to say 4 days ago. So I believe it was 2026, not 2025. So um, hold on. You have a Supreme Court that blocked the Department of Energy gas application regulation. No, the California one. Uh, yeah. So there was a joint resolution to block California's ban on the new gas law. Um, and this bypassed a resolution that was introduced by California Representative Kevin Kelly. Congress and the White House has successfully revoked their waivers. Um, Let me see, when did they do this? I want to be I like to be accurate about my facts. I fact check everything. Yeah, okay, so I was right. It was actually this time last year when they did it. So they started working on it April 3rd, 2025. By May 1st, they had passed by the House of Representatives. May 22nd, it passed the United States Senate. June 12th, the president had signed it. And in 2026, there's legal fallout because in March of 2026, the United States Department of Justice and the Department of Transportation filed a major lawsuit against the California Air Resources Board, and the federal government argued that California's state level electric vehicle targets and CO2 caps violated the federal law by interfering with national fuel economic standards. And then in June of 2026, this is the reason why I thought that we were dealing with something in this year, not last year. In June of 2026, the EPA ramped up pressure by sending four additional older California vehicle emissions waivers to Congress for potential repeal under the Congressional Review Act. And these date as far back as 2009 and cover previous state greenhouse gas bills. So June 22nd of 2026, California Attorney General Rob Bonta officially countersued the EPA in Washington, D.C. federal court, and the lawsuit aims to throw out the 2025 congressional rollback and block the federal government from stripping away the state's historical clean air authority. Now, while the 2035 ban remains blocked on paper due to the June 2025 law, the practical enforcement of the vehicle standard is frozen while the federal courts review California's lawsuit. That's what's going on in 2026. So they kicked off some shit a couple years ago, or no, they kicked off some shit last year, but they decided to put their foot in it and say, hold on, let's double check what we got going on. So where were we? Uh California, yeah, we just talked about that. They're suing, and this is going to move a major win for the fossil fuel industry and a signal of a massive shift in the balance between federal and state powers because it is a deliberate slowdown of the green transition, making it clear that on major energy issues, Washington's agenda is now in control. So that's what we're trying to cover for today. That's going to be the three pronged revolution in American economic policies. First, the one big beautiful bill delivered permanent tax cuts for corporations and most individuals paid for by trillions in new debt and cuts to social safety nets and clean energy. Second, student loan overhauls that collapses repayment into two plans that restricts borrowing and extends forgiveness timelines, all while tying university funds directly to graduate earnings. A third, which is a federal rollback of state level climate actions designed to slow the transition to electric vehicles and reassert control over energy policies. Now, this is the new landscape that I was supposed to be trying to get through to you guys. And man, I had hell trying to get. I'm not gonna lie to you. If we didn't have all these fucking technical issues, this show would have been a 30-minute show because it took us an hour and a half with difficulties. Either way, this is the new landscape. And the even though we struggle to get through this, I will be piggybacking this information into the membership, and I will be piggybacking this information on other topics that we're going to be talking about this week and next week as we start correlating how those student loan repayment things can positively influence your ability to make extra money while negatively impacting your ability to save and make money. And we're going to be talking about the difference between how those emission laws will allow you to utilize your car in California and how those emission laws impact people who are traveling to California with vehicles that don't match the emission laws that are in California. Um, because one of the things that we don't pay attention to from time to time is that state laws are enforced on the people in the state at the time, not just the residents. So when you start talking about how they're not allowing certain things with the EPA regulations, if you've got you a gas guzzler with loud pipes, no exhaust, and it rolls into their town, they're likely going to try to give you modification fines and fix it tickets and other such things. And any type of old school vehicle that's rings are burning and needs a head job, but you haven't gotten it yet, and you're putting along the road spitting out smoke, they're likely going to give you some shit while you're in town. So, one or two things that you should probably do, recognizing what they've got going on right now, is either A, go to California in a rental car, or B, don't drive the car that sucks into California. You want to drive the one that doesn't show emission issues going into California. It doesn't have to be a brand new 2026 model. It could be a 2008 model or a 2012 model. It could be a 2016 model, as long as it is not showing negative emission signs while it is in town. And what does negative emission sounds look like? Either white or black smoke coming out of the exhaust, um, a lot of noise coming out of the exhaust, um, excessive steam coming from under the hood, um, stuff leaking from the motor. That's not condensation. These are the things that they're going to be like, no, we're not going to fuck with your car. Your car's going to have to get fixed or it's got to get gone. That's what they're going to be doing. With the car culture in LA, I can't see it. Well, the car culture in LA, so you have to recognize the difference between the custom car culture in LA and the broke motherfucker with the Woe Bundy car in LA. The car culture with the Impalas, with the hydraulics, with the and you got okay, so the squatted trucks, they're being towed off the street, they're being towed off the sidewalk, they're being towed from out of parking lots. If it's a squatted truck, that's it. It's not going nowhere. If you don't get, and when I see a squatted truck, I want to slap the owner. And the reason why is because you could have gotten the squatted truck effect by putting some really heavy reinforced hydraulic shocks or adjustable suspension on your squatted vehicle so that you could give the squatted look when you're showing off in a parking lot, but level off your vehicle the way Ice Cube used to level off his Impala before he started doing a real N-word roll call. You should be able to put your car natural. They made it a permanent squat. Why would you do that? Why would you lift the front and not lift the back and then think that the police are going to say, "Oh, that's cool"? No, 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 no. But that's what they did. Now, when it comes down to the traditional cars that everybody approves of, including the police, the Impalas, the 64 Chevys, the cars in the lowrider competitions, the Need for Speed vehicles that are all tricked out and souped up, but they're street legal, the ones that don't have NOS, the ones that don't have fire out coming out of the exhaust, because that misfire, that's also going to be a regulation that they're going to impound your car for. So the misfire with the fire out of the exhaust, flames coming out of the tailpipe, anything like that, you can't have that stuff. But if it's just a regular car, if it's like rims and legal legal level tint and a wrap or a body design, they're not going to give you no shit, you know. But let's say a Honda Civic sounds like a Dodge Viper and you can hear it 4 blocks down the street. Nah, they're not going to let you go nowhere with that car. It one noise pollution, which means it's going to have modified exhaust, which means it's not going to pass the emissions law because there's no catalytic converters on it to filter out the exhaust. So they're going to tow your car. You first, here goes another thing. Luxury vehicles like Lambos and Ferrari, they're gonna pull your ass over as soon as you come into town. Yeah, they're gonna give you shit about it, even though you don't live there, because they believe that if your ass got money, you got money to pay a ticket for driving into town with a Lambo or a Ferrari. I don't know what's wrong with Lambos and Ferraris, but they're gonna give you shit because you're driving in town with a Lambo or a Ferrari. So if you're going into town with like a Toyota Supra, Honda Accord, Honda Civic, Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger, um, 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 Supra. You know, I'm trying to think of all of the cars that were on Fast and the Furious. You can do that if they look normal, meaning no smoke, no fire, no NOS purge, normal ride height while it's on the road. That's all they're asking you to do. No underglows underneath the vehicles, no red and blue lights anywhere, no flashing anything anywhere, and normal looking. It could be painted, it could be trimmed up, it could be sharp, it could have custom interior and all of this other shit, but it's got to look like it's not about to do something illegal. As long as you can get it to do that, you're going to be okay. So when we think about how the American people don't have a say in what's going on a lot of the times. One, because we don't speak up for ourselves. You think that the American car culture in Los Angeles is going to do something about the law? No. What they're going to do is the exact same thing that the American people did for the 4th of July in Los Angeles, even though they banned fireworks for the 4th of July. Everybody in the city was launching fireworks. Now, that means that the entire state broke the law for probably 2 or 3 hours. Now, what does that do for police? Well, less than 1% of the population is usually law enforcement. And what they would have to do is go place to place and try to identify as many people as possible that launched fireworks during that time frame and arrest them and ticket them for deploying fireworks, violating the law. I believe it's a misdemeanor. When they start making it a felony, that's when it starts being a problem. But it's partially littering and noise pollution. So it's going to likely be, I don't know what the exact fine is for it, and I don't know what the exact code or statute is for it, but it's going to be, in my observation, a regular misdemeanor. Now, if they turn the launching of a firework into a discharging a firearm type of charge, then everybody committed a felony on the 4th of July. It's just that who's going to get a couple million people and put them in court for discharging a projectile inner city limits? You know how the judge would be. The judge would have to have everybody take a plea at the same time. I got like 75 of y'all. Everybody stand up. Y'all all got the same charge. Everybody say no contest so we can move on to the next 75. Because they would literally be having to turn them out. They'd have to turn them out. But um I can't say that popping fireworks to celebrate Independence Day is a constitutionally protected right. I don't have any information that supports that. Um, I understand that our constitutional right to be free allows us to break laws like they did on the 4th of July, and because nobody's willing to enforce the law on such a mass scale that we have the right to break the law, which in other countries, no, they would have came and got everybody. CCTV, they would have seen each person who launched the firework and went and got their ass. Even if they were still looking for them in August for launching fireworks in July, they would have caught everybody who launched the fucking firecracker because in other countries they're like zero tolerance. If we got you on video, there's video evidence. So when we catch you, we're going to back serve you on the evidence because you were a prime suspect until we caught you, and then once we caught you, the statute of limitations starts when we catch you. So yeah, that's going to be one of those situations. But do you believe that like the American people are going to obey the law? Fuck no. Of course not. We cut catalytic converters off and get money from the scrap yards. So no, they're not going to really abide by the law voluntarily. But if I'm going to give you guys a recommendation on how to function, I would get a rental car. Since I ain't from around those parts, if I wanted to go to California, if I flew in, I would get a rental car. If I was driving in, I'd get a rental car before I drove in. And I would do that for two reasons. One, because I don't want no bullshit while I'm there. And two, why put all of those miles on my personal daily driver when I can put all of those miles on somebody else's car? And I found there's a lot of rental car companies that for like $60 for the day, they will let you rent their car for seemingly unlimited miles, and all you got to do is put gas back in that bitch. If under the circumstances that you're able to save 300 or 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 miles on your vehicle and do that to somebody else's shit, insurance and all, and you're going to buy their insurance. You're not going to couple your insurance on their shit. You're going to buy their insurance. So that if something happens, your insurance is not involved. You're not even going to tell them what your insurance is. If something happens, it's exclusive. Their insurance, their car, your insurance doesn't know, right? For like $50, $60 a day. Shit. That's what I'm talking about. Plus like 20 bucks for the gas that I'm gonna use. That's like $85 for me to fuck up somebody else's shit. Why would I even ride my car into California and deal with bullshit when I could just ride into California with a rental car? And if they tell me something about it, my response is it's a rental car. It's not my car. I rented it and it's not my car. It should, because they knew where I was going, qualify. But also, when I rent cars, I'm different from a lot of other people because some people who rent cars, they want to get the SUV, they want to get the truck, they want to get the big body. Some of these young bucks, they want to get the sports car and the lavish and the luxury and the. I want the cheapest one that you've got on the lot right now. I don't give a damn if it's a midsize. I don't give a damn if it's a coupe. I don't give a damn if it's got one door in the front and one in the trunk. I want the cheapest one you've got right now that is functional to get me and my dog from point A to point C. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. And the cheaper it is, the better insurance coverage I can put on it. So if it gets fucked up, I'm good because I put insurance on that bitch. Now, with other appliances and shit like that, I tell you guys, you know what? Fuck the warranty because by the time that bitch breaks, it's gonna be outside the warranty. You'd have wasted your money on the warranty. You still gotta go to Walmart and buy you another one. But when it comes to a rental car, the likelihood of damage, the average damage that's done to the newer model cars is like $2,000 to $5,000 for a fender bender. I will always tell you, put that 20 or 30 bucks down on your daily rental car so that if somebody else scratches the paint while you're inside buying a pack of cigarettes, it ain't gonna matter because the warranty, the insurance will cover it. The internal belonging to the car insurance will cover it. It doesn't matter if you was going somewhere with a friend and you parked a little bit too close to the curb and they scraped the car on the curb, or they hit the pole by the gas pump talking about going to get some chips or whatever the case may be. All kinds of stuff happens in life. But if you've got that insurance on that motherfucker, it don't matter. The one time you don't get the insurance, that's going to be the day that somebody put some bullets into your windshield, and now you got a $2,500 repair bill with a car. No, I'm not trying to fuck with that. I'm not trying to fuck with that. Luckily, they don't put that shit on your credit report, but it stops you from renting from that company ever again until you pay off the bill. So instead of risking that type of inconvenience, because there's only so many rental car companies, just pay the extra money for the warranty, for the insurance, right? Now, with the new landscape, we got to recognize that the world that promises more take home pay for many workers and a friendlier environment for businesses traded against higher national debt and a government that prioritizes defense and border security over social security and climate policies. Because I mean, think about it. Donald Trump is going to put a stop to anybody that's not going to let us make a bunch of money off of oil. Donald Trump is going to get mad at anybody who's going to not allow us to buy oil, which is why he was cussing up a storm about how the oil companies wasn't coming down on the prices for oil because American people are going to be reluctant to buy oil if oil is overpriced. But then we went back to war. He gonna come out of that with some extra oil. Eventually, maybe March or June of 2026, we might see 225 a gallon for some oil so that he can say I told you so before he get out of office. Maybe 2027 we might see some 225. But right now, while they blowing each other up, we should see 425 or 550 depending on where you at. The gas is going back up. Not much we can do about it. Now, with everything that we got going on, the question is, what does all of this mean for you? Because this is typically what I try to cover these topics for. Do you think that the trade-off is going to be worth it? Well, for student loans like Steven, if you get into the right repayment program, yeah, this might be beneficial. But if he was trying to get his master's degree and he already spent a bunch of money on his undergrad, this probably would be very inconvenient. You got a lot of people that put a lot of their student loan money into borrowing against their undergrad, getting their associate's degree and getting their 4 year bachelor's degree, so that by the time they get out of the bachelor's degree program, they don't have enough money to go into the master's degree program. And that also includes the PhD program. So you're not able to get a $500,000 worth of loan money now. You're capped at 200,000 from the time you start to the time you finish. So parents who make shit tons of money from anywhere should be trying to build gains of some kind in either a trust or investment brokerage portfolio or something to that effect, where the money is being made for them so that their kids have enough money to cover their education. Because I mean, if you want your kids to go to college, you should probably have $250,000 sitting somewhere where your kids can go to college. And not so that the kids can tap the $250,000 on regular, but so that if they're getting 10% of the $250,000, they're getting paid $25,000 a year to go to college. That's a really good trust to say, hey, that from the time so and so graduates from high school until the time so and so graduates from college, he or she will receive X number of dollars per month to go directly to their college education, which means that they would have to show to the trustee what university they're going to, so that the trustee can send a check to the university for their college enrollment. And in doing this, you're not giving your kids a free ride. You are actually giving them the foundational stability to make it to be successful without allowing them to squander it away. Because yeah, you're going to have grant money, and then you're going to have whatever's left over. Now, the kids can still take out the loans if they wanted to. They can still borrow against the stone if they wanted to. But mom or dad or whoever, grandpa, uncle, whatever, paid for their college education. So they don't need grant money from the government. They've got a paid bill already. You just got to take whatever's owed and give it to the trustee, and the trustee's got it. So if you wanted to finish your undergrad with no cost to you, so that you can use your master's degree to pay for your master's program, then that would make a lot more sense. Because if you're going to tap into the 200 grand after your 4 year, and you still got a trust that's giving you 25 grand towards your education as you go into your master's degree, you've got way more money for med school, which makes a lot more sense. It works towards your room and board. It works towards you not having to struggle to work 2 jobs while being a full-time student. It works towards, being a parent and not having to work 2 jobs and being a full-time student. All of that because you're able to subsidize your child's income while they're in college. It just requires you to put thought into what you expect their future to be. Um, so I want you guys to make sure that you let us know what your thoughts are in the comments, the way Michael's doing right now, because this is a very complex story that we're all living through. And you guys got to stay on top of all of the changes that are happening in the economy and what those changes mean to you. So you guys got to remember to take the time out of your day to make sure that you like, subscribe, and join the membership, and take a look at all the information that is coming out. Now, Michael said, let the kids pay for college. 63% don't graduate anyway. Bad investment for most parents. Um, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Michael. 63% of people don't finish college for a number of reasons. I should cover a whole show on this, but just on a shorthand, a portion of the reason why people don't finish college is because they've got too many financial obligations outside of college that distracts them from focusing on their career. You have some that end up with life altering injuries and car accidents and other such personal traumas that prevents them from being able to focus on their education or finish the field that they're in. Because if you're trying to go into the medical field and you end up with an injury that messes up your hands, you can't do surgery anymore. So now you can't finish college and be the doctor that you went to school for. You don't have 63% of people not finishing college because they're irresponsible. You don't have 63% of people not finishing college because they're lazy or because they're not smart enough. 63% of people don't finish college because they're not there's stuff beyond their control that is preventing them from being successful, and that's going to be and I mean, I don't like to disagree with you all the time, Michael, but I mean, okay, so here's the thing: if it's a bad move, I would be the first person to jump up and say, yeah, that's not a financial wise choice. However, I am not the one that says that college is the best thing for everybody, because college is technically a waste of money, because you're going to college to network, to meet people that have power, so that when you get out of power, you can go and use that power outside of college to get you a good job. I strongly believe you should find a way to work for yourself. But I also know that you can get money from college that you wouldn't get if you weren't in college, but it requires you to enroll in college. College lines of credit that doesn't require you to pass a background check or have a certain credit score. They give you student credit cards just because you're enrolled in college. They give you student bank accounts just because you're enrolled in college. They loan you money just because you're enrolled in college. So, from a financial perspective, not about getting the grades, not about getting the degree. The fact is, you can walk into college and get a large quantity of financial opportunities that you can't get if you weren't a college student. And that's why I say college is beneficial for you if you're going to use that money wisely. Now, if you're not going to use that money wisely, it's like walking to a casino and always betting on black. You're not going to win all the time, and it is going to be a waste of money. And I agree with you there. But the reason why I disagree was not because college is worth it. It is because I disagree with the fact that 63% of people are not graduating on their own merit. And it is a bad investment because so many people don't succeed when the high risk lifestyle that is financially unfavorable to the 63% of people that don't finish is one of the reasons why the majority of people don't finish, because I can't afford to finish college. A lot of people don't make enough money. They can't pay off their student loans. They take a semester off for whatever reason. When they take that semester off, it triggers payment. If you don't pay, it triggers default. And if you're defaulted, you can't go back. And if you can't afford college and you can't afford to pay back the debt, you can't afford to start back up again. They're not going to redefer you after you default. So at the end of the day, you're stuck out of college with a bill that you can't pay and no degree. So there's a lot of reasons why, and it's usually financial reasons why 63% of people don't pass. There is a percentage of the 63% of people that don't pass because they're stupid. There is a percentage of them that don't pass because they waste their time partying like rock stars. But the majority of the 63% that doesn't pass is a financial issue. And it's a personal financial issue. They don't have enough money in their personal standard of living to sustain going to college and living the life that they live at the same time. Because a lot of the return college students are middle-aged people that are going to college so that they can get a better life. They can't afford the lifestyle that they have right now, and they're trying to go to college to get a better life so that they can get a better job, so that they can afford the lifestyle that they want. And they fail at doing that by going to college because they should have did that 10 or 15 years ago when they were younger and under a second or third income, where mom and dad was paying for their standard of living and college was just a free ride through life kind of thing, right? So you are right to a degree that, yeah, it's gonna fuck up a lot of people's money, and not a lot of people are gonna get a lot out of it. And the majority of people that get a degree don't get a degree in their field, and they got a degree, but I mean, it doesn't benefit their standard of living, and the cost of their college education doesn't nearly amount to the cost or the profit from the employment that they acquire after college. So it's not like it's a financial benefit to get a degree, because you owe more money to the government now up to 25, 30 years than what you're going to make on your annual salary for going to work. So I'm not going to say that college in and of itself is a financial benefit. I only disagree with the fact that 63% of people fail to complete it, and that makes it a wasted effort. No, I will say the opposite. I say that even the 17 the 37% of people that do succeed, it's a waste of fucking money for them, because they're out of the people who do graduate, they don't get that, not all of them get So when you think out of 100% of the people that go to college, only like 37% of them graduate, and out of 100% of the people that graduate, less than half of them get a job that supports what they went to college for. So less than 20%, 25% of people who try to go to college actually can afford the lifestyle that comes out of college. Everybody else is just in a boatload of debt, failed dreams. He said med school 8 years plus 4 years specialty. Going to college for being a doctor, good idea. No, shit, no, you're talking about 8 years of med school plus 4 years of specialty, and then you're right. You're talking about backtracking and saying that it was like 150% to get your bachelor's degree before you went to med school. So if you're looking at like 4 years without remedial classes, you're looking at 6 years to get your bachelor's degree. And if you went to an associate's, if you went to a community college instead of coming fresh out of high school and going to the 4 year, then you're likely going to do 2 years in community college, which means you're 3 years for the community college, and then out of the 4 year, you're looking at probably 5 years for the 4 year institution, which is a total of 8 years, plus the 8 years for undergrad, plus the 4 years for specialty, which is like 16, 20 years of college to go be a doctor. It's not a good. You're right. It's not a good idea. It's a bad event. And $200,000 is the cap now that your debt's going to be when you walk out of college. Everything else you got to pay out of pocket. So if you don't finish college before you run out of funding, you're kind of going to drop out because you can't afford to pay. It's a shit deal. But I'm saying that college benefits you for the dynamic of if you got bad credit, you can get credit cards, you can get student loans. They don't care. All they care is that you got a 4.0 GPA and they will put money in your pocket. And if you use that money while you're in college, you can fix your financial situation not by paying off all of your past debts. Fuck those debts. Let those debts get charged off and it will fall off of your credit score 10 years down the line. Take that money and invest it right now in 7 years of college. All of the debt you had before college would have fell off your credit report, and you would still have $200,000 in a brokerage account that you can utilize to pay back the student loans and have a better way to go. That is what I tell people. And you'll still have the student credit cards if you keep up the student credit cards and don't let them default. And you're going to see your credit score go up because you'll be on time payments or overpaying on your student loans to offset any taxable income that would have happened from your brokerage account. Because if your brokerage account is paying on student loans, it's paying back a loan, which is a tax blanket. So if you start paying $10,000 or $15,000 a year on your student loans instead of paying whatever the fuck they asked for because you got it like that from your brokerage account, you don't have to pay taxes on the profits from your brokerage account, but you don't have to give your student loans a dollar because the interest from the principal pays off the original balance. So you end up the transaction breaks even, but you keep $200,000 in your brokerage account when the whole deal is done. And that's not something that people talk about, but that would be a benefit for going to college. Either I agree as to the money, but the money is the only reason why it's good. The money and the networking, that's the only two reasons why it's good. If it was about going to do the book learning and taking the test and getting the piece of paper, I would say that college is a waste of fucking time. It's a waste of time and a waste of money. Is that 40 to 70% who drop out is because of money? Yes, sir, that's right. 40 to 7%. He said that math ain't mathing. No, sure it's not. That math is not mathing, bro. The way that so many people fail, that math is not mathing. He said 20% college students read at a graduate school level. That's because the large majority of the people that go to college are high school dropouts where they dropped out in the ninth grade at 15, 16 years old, started working, and life sucked. And then at 26, 27, 28 years old, they go back to college, and like, fuck this, I'm not going to live this life anymore. Right? Special shout out to Joe Jack. Um, but yeah, that's true. He says, is your student loans paid off? My student loans are permanently deferred. So no, they are not paid off. I don't give them a dollar. I have $0 payments for the remainder of my life. I'm not gonna cap. I'm not gonna cap. I'm not gonna sit here and try to tell you, oh man, I did what I was supposed to do 20 years ago, and oh man, I got it made. No, I found out 3 years ago that if I would have been doing this in 2013 when I went to college, that I'd be a fucking millionaire today. But I just found out in 2023, which is 10 years after I finished. You know what I mean? I just found this shit out. And I'm like, damn, if somebody would have told me this in 2013, somebody told me this when I first started in 2010, I'd be rolling in it right now, you know? But I did. Well, hindsight is always going to be 2020 for everybody. But the logic behind it is that I learned, and after I learned, now I'm teaching everybody else. All right, look, if you pay attention to what you're doing, yeah, you can get the paperwork, you can get the grants, you can get the scholarship, you can get the free ride, and still take the 200 grand. And you could put the 200 grand somewhere where the 200 grand is making you 400 grand. So by the time you get out of school, you got all of this extra money that nobody else did anything, nobody else will do anything else with, because the average person that goes to school and sees all that free money, they borrow against the stone, they pay their mama's rent, they buy themselves a car, they pay car notes, they pay phone bills, they buy expensive computers, they buy expensive clothes, they party with their friends, they pay dues for fraternities and all of this other shit. And when they get out of college, they spent up all the money. They don't have a dollar to work with, and they still owe the money back. Nobody ever invested. I'm telling you to invest it. He said, "You got grants?" Yes, I had got. I not only did I get a full ride, I also had scholarships. I had a 4.0 GPA from the time I started till the time I finished, and well, not by the time I finished. By the time I finished, I had a 3.8 GPA. I think I got as low as 3.6. But I was always an honor student, and I was in what was it, Phi Theta Kappa, I think it was the honor society fraternity that I was involved in the whole way through. I'm talking about like 10 plus years of honor student the whole way through. I had the grant, the federal Pell grant. Then I had the scholarship for being black, the scholarship for being middle aged, the scholarship for being smart, the scholarship for being a man. I was getting scholarships all over the place. They put up scholarships for all kind of shit. Scholarship for hardship, scholarship for being the head of household, scholarship for being first generation college student. Even though I wasn't a first generation college student, but where's dad? So since he wasn't there, that he wasn't claimed, so they didn't know he existed. So I'm like, hey, if they don't know, first generation college student, I took advantage of that. So I was getting refund on refund on refund, and I was maxing out on all the loans. So I could have had a bigger bill there, but I didn't. Steven says, for me, 2 years community college, two more years bachelor, one additional year of master's. That's not how it's going to work for you, buddy. That is not how it's going to work for you, buddy. You're going to see. You're going to see. The 4 year institution is going to be 150%. So if you did 2 straight years of college, because I thought that you did 3 years in your undergrad at the community college to get the 2 year associate's degree, because that's how they treat you. They make you do all kinds of extra remedial prerequisites that's not on paper. Then you're going to get your associate's degree, because that's what I did. All this extra shit. Then you go to the 4 year institution. Now, with the 4 year institution, the curriculum is much more difficult. So instead of you packing down all of your core classes, you're going to stretch the shit out, which means that your 2 years is going to become 3 to 4 after your associate's degree. So you're halfway through to your bachelor's, but you still have 3 years left, which is 5 years. And then your master's degree is going to be 2 years, because it's 150%, but it's not going to be a year and a half. It's going to be a 2 year program. It's going to be an 18-month program that's going to give you an extra 6 to 9 months. And by the time you finish with it, you're going to be like, fuck, I've been here 2 years. And that's if everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. Because if situation happens and competitiveness causes you to not complete it to the magnitude of acceptance, and you have to wait until the next rotation, those types of unexpected delays causes your education to not be what it is. Because, like, for example, you might think everything works according to plan. No, you have certain paradoxes in your education that is like a quantum leap situation, where this one class must be passed before you can take anything else. Now, all of the other shit that you were taking there didn't matter which came first, but this motherfucking class comes after all of that and comes before all of this. And now all of a sudden you've got one semester where you're taking one meaningful class and a bunch of bullshit classes to be full-time student, and then you start getting into all the rest of your meaningful classes. That situation happens at least once a semester. At least once a semester. because it's chain reaction classes. It's like if you've ever played like Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering, where conditional cards, you must play card A before you play card B, kind of shit. That's how the education system works. And they do that to make more money off of you because in order for you to get funding, you have to have at least 2 3 credit classes to get 6 credits. Otherwise, they're not going to fund you. So they'll fuck around and force you to do 15 credit hours when 12 credit hours is full time because you're going to have a lecture and lab, which is 4, which makes no fucking sense. You're not going to be able to sustain 3 lecture and labs, which is 12. So you're going to end up with 2 lecture and labs, which is 8. And then in order to get 12, you're going to end up picking up a 3 credit class, which is not enough. That's 11. So you got to pick up another 3 credit class, which puts you at closer to 14. And then you're like, shit. And you find yourself doing 2 classes a day. Monday, Tuesday class on this side, Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday class on this side, Tuesday, Thursday class on this side. Sometimes you got one in the morning, one in the evening, but you're going to school Monday through Thursday. It's crazy. He said, you got grants, not loans. No, I got grants and loans, Michael. That's why I didn't have as much. Go to grants.com for grants. Grants.com doesn't always give you grants for your education, but you can find a lot of grants there. He says, so you don't have loans. No, I have about $65,000 or $75,000 worth of loans under my belt, buddy. Oh, I had a lot of money. I had a lot of loans under my belt. He said, I'm in PKT Honor Society as well. So you know what I'm talking about. He says, so I did 2 years and 2 more will get me where I'm going. A foot on the gas all the way. Hey, if it works out for you, I really hope that it works out for you that way. Congratulations if it does. Just note, do not beat yourself up over it if it doesn't go that way because I'm telling you how 4-year institutions make their money. They're not making their money off of you graduating. They're making their money off of you having extra semesters of class for shit that you didn't know existed. Because what they don't tell you is what the prerequisite class is for the core class. You have 2 years worth of core classes to get your degree, and then there are prerequisites and electives that are not listed in your degree that you must complete before you get to the core classes for your degree. And that is why it's 150% of the time, because 100% of what you think is going to be there, 50% more of bullshit that you didn't know that you had to do. That is what I'm preparing you for. You're going to see. You're going to see. Your first semester starts in like 3 or 4 weeks. When you get in there, go to your student portal. Go look at the list of classes that you have to accomplish to get your degree. And then look at the prerequisite that must be completed before you file assign for that class. And that's going to be the key thing because the prerequisite, if it's not complete, you're not going to be able to register for the core class. That's when you're going to find out that pre-calc or pre-chemistry or pre-trig or pre-this or pre-that or pre-the other is going to be some shit that's going to have to get done in order for you to get into the original class. And if you need like statistics 2 or calc 2 or genetics 2, you can't get to genetics 2 without biology 2. You can't get to biology 2 without intro and biology. You don't know what you need until you look at the prerequisite. But once you go into your student portal, you're gonna be like, holy fuck, look at all these goddamn classes. and they don't line up. They don't line up. Because there's gonna be 2 things that are gonna interfere with you. One, they don't line up in the pattern in which you want to schedule them. And 2, they're not available the way you want them to be available. So you'll find that certain classes overlap, so you can't take them both in the same semester. You'll find that certain classes fill up too quickly, so you can't get it this year. You got to wait until next year and be one of the first people to enroll in it as soon as drop ad or enrollment starts. You're going to find that certain stuff, is going to inconvenience and delay your ability to finish. And just note, I told you so. So in like I want to say September 15th, roughly September 21st, when you come back and tell me, yeah, I see what you're saying. I just started booking classes, and this is gonna be some bullshit with booking classes. That's gonna be when October 15th, maybe October 28th, drop ad week. Yeah, some of these classes are bullshit ass classes. The teachers are dick. They're not teaching the students Office hours are irregular. The teacher's never in the office during office hours. I can't get the information I need. I have to drop this class. Soon as you drop the class, you extend your graduation time by an extra 6 months. And if you're taking a science class, you can only fail, you can only get 2 D's in your major before you have to change a major. You can drop the class at least once. Each class, you can drop the class at least once, but you can only get 2 D's. So if you think you're going to fail, you have to drop out before the last a drop week in October. Otherwise, you fail the class, and that also delays your graduation. And science classes are a dick. It's trivial information that is not good for any kind of water cooler conversation. And if you don't get a job in the field of that information, you're never going to use it after that test. And it hurts. It hurts because you got to know it, but you don't know anything about it. And the teacher doesn't have the time to teach you because there's 300 fucking kids in there, and everybody's on their laptop with fucking Roblox and Fortnite and all this other shit, and students doing TikTok dances during class and shit instead of getting damn class out of the way. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, man. He said, as long as I don't pop out a Steve Jr. or get in a fight and go to jail, I'm good. No, no, no. You can pop out a Steve Jr. There's a scholarship for single fathers. And you can get out, you can get into a fight and go to jail. And there's another scholarship for reformed inmates. So I mean, if you went to jail, you could get more money. And if you have a kid, you can get more money. So I mean, there isn't a there's not a bad. The only thing that you can't do is get a fight on campus or go to jail on campus because that'll get you expelled from school. Um, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Don't do anything that'll get you in trouble on campus with the campus. But I mean, if you down the street, around the corner somewhere, and you get knocked off, as long as the local police don't go and tell your dean, like nobody gives a shit. But when you're filling out an application for a scholarship, it's like, yeah, I just got out of jail. You get that inmate reform scholarship. They got, got them out there. They got them out there. There is a grant and a scholarship for the majority of situations that allows people to turn their lives around. Nobody knows that they exist. Very few people take advantage of them, but they're out there to aid the people who want them or the people who need them, the people who know that it exists to help people get where they're trying to go at in life. But it just requires people to look, and not too many people do. So take the time to go ahead and go take a look at that. Now, we ran through all the shit that we was gonna run through for today. We still managed to do 2 hours with all the technical difficulties and everything to that effect, and we still managed to cover all of the important parts of today's show. I got so much editing to do. I have not edited in 2 months, but I did edit the inappropriate behavior from the boys off of the other show. So I don't know. Y'all told me pull up an intern and have them pick up a marketing intern and have them edit. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Um, but we do have rolls out of a lot of information every night of the week. I made sure of that. So I stood firm on that. So now you're seeing at least one, if not two, releases every day on the updated, if not future information, so that you're not going to fall behind as I work on getting the older information produced, because that older information is going to end up being refreshed in later shows to give you guys updates on how what I told you guys last year has either changed or improved with the current laws that have been enforced over the last 12 months. Because as you see, when they first started doing cuts last year, this time last year, and I was talking to y'all about this time last year, they were not working on um, um, tuition reimbursement or paying back your student debt. This year they're working on it. So it's a multi-part process. So where they fucked up the rotation last year that had everybody pissed off, they're doing the rest of it now, and they still got another 2 years left because this is midterm. He's halfway through his 4 years, so he still has 2 more years left to finish doing what he's planning on doing before he stops. And all of whatever he does is either going to help or it's going to hurt, depending on the person. Most of the things that are done is for big business perspectives, but a lot of things from business perspective is accountability, because why are colleges making so much money if nobody's getting a good job? That's a waste of money. So from a Shark Tank perspective, I would fire the universities that are producing no opportunities after college. So yeah, I can see why he does certain things, but in other scenarios I also see like big business keep the money in the pockets of big business, keep oil flowing, uh keeping money in the pockets of big business and keeping money in the pockets of billionaires. In order for the lower 25 and the lower 50% of people to benefit from these types of bills and laws that are being passed, is that you have to position yourself in a place as big business. So when your LLC or your C corporation or your S corporation gets the pass through taxation that originally you didn't know anything about, you start getting that and you start building a small income on top of that. And you can use that small income to subsidize your W 2 work. But the tax deductions that passes through your small business will allow you to get more money back on the money they took out of your taxes. But because it's a deduction, not a credit, up to 100% of the money they took out of your check will they give back to you. So if they took $3,000 out of your check, they're going to give you back the $3,000 they took out of your check. So if you got a business on the side and you spent $4,000 on getting that business up and going, and they give you back the $3,000 off of your check because that's what they took out of your check, your business pays for itself because it gives you back what you spent on it, and ultimately allows you to build a second income, right? Where you could probably work from home and do something that you like better than the other job that you're doing. And if you're working from home off of a laptop, you're able to work from school off of the same laptop. Like I said before, if you've got a morning class and an evening class, from the time you get out of your morning class to the time your evening class starts is usually 6 to 8 hours of space, which gives you plenty of time to do 4 hours of work, take a nap, and study for school, which means that you can wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, go to school, take your AM class, get out of your AM class, take a nap, do lunch, do some work, go to your PM class, go home, go to bed, and you're good to go. And you're getting paid while you're in school to do stuff that you love to do and still be able to get your degree. That's the kind of stuff that we didn't have in our knowledge repertoire 10, 15 years ago. It was go work at a low thought process job, which is a manual labor job. Whatever they tell you to do, you're getting paid for your presence, and then leave from that job and go focus on getting your education so that you can try to get a better job. We would always tell ourselves it's not always going to be like this without figuring out how it's not always going to be like this. We don't plan for change. We just expect change to happen. We don't realize that that piece of paper from that school does shit for our ability to get a better job. They're not waiting for us to walk off the stage to hand us the keys to the corner office. With so many people that finish school that are begging for that exact same job, we are one out of millions. And it is like a lottery pick. We're not going to get what we think we're going to get, like they're just going to hand it to us because it's me. No, you have to stand out above the rest. And the fucked up part is that when high school diplomas was the standard, a bachelor's degree was standing out above the rest. Bachelor's degrees become the norm. You need a bachelor's degree to clean toilets now. So a master's degree is above the rest, but you still only have a $200,000 cap. Ultimately, they're going to be expecting, but in the next 20 years, they're going to be expecting everybody to have a master's degree, and a PhD is going to be above the rest. But the biggest issue that a lot of people are not paying attention to is the what 64, 65,000 immigrants that get citizenship in America with their H-1Bs are all coming over with a fucking master's degree, if not three, and potentially a PhD in order to get citizenship to be in America. So your competition isn't the kids sitting next to you in your 4 year institution. Your competition is some fucker from overseas who flew in yesterday and has a degree 4 years better than yours. That's your competition. And if you're not preparing for that today, because in Asia, they're grinding their kids at 4, 5, and 6 years old before their kids know how to be bad. Their kids know how to take their ass to school. We didn't learn how to take our ass to school until we were 15, 16 years old. They had us beat by 10 years. So when they're adults, they didn't have 3 degrees by the time they're 30. We're 30. We're still trying to get one fucking degree. And so by the time we get that degree, we're 41. And the 36-year-olds, the 28-year-olds, are popping out of college in Asia, flying to America, 10 years younger than us, trying to get into the same field we're trying to get into. And big business hires younger people first. So, where we might equal somebody else with knowledge and skill set, they're younger and more able bodied, which puts us in a fucked up position. It puts us in a fucked up position because now we're too old to do the job. If we would have did what we had to do and we got that job when we were 20, we would have had so many more opportunities. But when we start trying to get into that fucking job at 40 years old with no experience, they not really trying to fuck with us at 40 years old with no experience. Doesn't matter if we got a bachelor's degree or a PhD. You know, if we're starting up our own business, yes, we can shadow somebody as an undergrad. We can get our 5 years of experience for our background on our website or whatever, and then start treating patients, treating the overflow from other places where we're charging cheaper rates so that we can build a reputation for ourselves because you're working for yourself. Yes, you can get out and get into the field at 45 years old and nobody give a fuck. But to say that big business is going to hire you at middle age and say that you're intro level, oh, they don't want you. They want the 20-year-old. That's going to be the hardest part of life. He said it must be nice to be stupid. Stupid people don't know how to. The privilege doesn't know what privilege looks like. The deprived knows what privilege looks like because we know, but we're not getting. We're watching everybody else get it. But stupid people don't know how privileged they are because nobody tells them. They don't learn. They don't know. Nobody's showing them how they've got it made, right? But truth be told, the rest of us that knows that there's more to this, there's levels to this shit, and it ain't stacking up right. That's the group of people that is actually gonna have to figure out a whole nother way because this shit ain't stacking up right. It's a jingle set that's being stacked crooked. We're gonna have to figure out another way to keep the shit from tumbling over. But as soon as we start figuring out another way, that's when all of the other doors start to open. Doors that had no keys to them start to open from the other side because we're looking from a different lens. And that's what I try to teach y'all. It's harder to become successful the longer you wait. Yes, sir, it is. Well, it's not just the longer you wait; it's the longer it takes for you to get there. So if you're stalling on your ability to try to be successful because you're waiting for something to happen, yes, the longer you wait, the harder it is going to be for you to succeed. But if you're grinding at the stone and you're putting in that work to try to be successful, and the delays in your ability to be successful is taking more time than you would prefer, that stack of delays typically is unfavorable to your timeline. Like Steven's right now, 36 years old. I believe he's going to make it, but he's 36 years old right now. And if he's looking at 2 years, and I'm telling him it might be 3 or 4 more years, he's going to be like 39 or 40 when he gets out of college with his bachelor's degree. He says he wants to do 1 year, which I believe is going to be 2 years of his master's degree. He's going to be like 42 or 43 when he's done with his master's degree. The field that he's going into typically has 28-year-olds with a master's degree. If he's working for somebody else, they're going to take the 28-year-old because that person can give 20 years to the company before they're his age. But if he's going to work for himself straight out of college, he would likely be successful for himself if he can show enough experience to bring in customers. Because once he's got the certifications, it could be your first day on a job. As long as you got the certifications, you can legally do it. But the enough experience for people to trust that you know what you're doing, which requires you to network to people who will refer somebody to you, that's going to be what is going to tell the difference between your success and your failure. It's psychiatry is what he was supposed to be going into. So like therapist kind of stuff. It was like 4 or 5 months ago when he and I talked about it, so I don't have the exact field, but that's one of the reasons why we had covered the registered nurse thing. And I was talking about being a concierge doctor because if you're going into psychiatry, which technically isn't that hard to do, to listen to people and write them a prescription, it is hard to do because you have to listen to people, not judge them, and provide them with a prescription. And the not judge them part from men who are naturally fixers, and the first thing we try to do is listen to your bullshit and give you like 18 different ways to make it better. The therapy is about you making them think for themselves, not you telling them what to do to get better. And the reason why you're not supposed to tell them what to do to get better is because if it was your idea and it fails, then they can sue you for giving them bad advice. So you're not supposed to really give them advice. You're supposed to make them decide on their own on which ways to go to get certain things done. But you can advise them to seek other professionals to aid them in their ability to succeed without having legal action against you. So there's a lot of stuff involved with that. But fresh out of psychiatry or fresh out of college with a psychiatry degree to go work for somebody else, you will be outpaced by somebody who's 20 years younger than you. But fresh out of college with a psychiatry degree, going into the field as your own boss, you have to do it differently than everybody else so that you can corner a saturated market. And that's why I was telling Steven, if you're coming out with a psychiatry degree and you do a concierge doctor situation where like the virtual phone calls and shit, so people who can't get to the doctor or don't have the time to get to the doctor, you can talk to them over the phone, and that will satisfy their ability to get mental health treatment. You do that, then you make a partnership or a conglomerate group where you oversee a bunch of other people that are coming out of college trying to do the same thing, and then you expand your network where you have like 5 or 7 doctors that are all treating patients over the phone, virtual calls. And you can do it too, but if you've got 5 or 7 doctors that's doing it and you're doing it, that gives y'all like 7 or 8 doctors that's doing it. And if each of y'all got like 10 patients, y'all got like 70 patients. And that's just to get started. If that's a by the hour scenario, if y'all got 70 patients by the hour scenario, y'all are charging $125 on the health insurance, y'all are making a shit ton of money to talk to people on a computer all day long. Instead of getting paid to 25 or $30 an hour to sit in his chair and talk to somebody about how was their day. Yeah, it's really nuts. He says he'll go work in a hospital like a social worker. That's typically where people get their experience from out the gate, and I recommended that he start doing that now. Go understudy at some hospitals, nursing homes, go find some psychiatric facilities that will allow him to shadow them because since he's a college student, this is one of the benefits of being a college student. Saying I'm a college student gives clout to his presence in a location where he's no longer allowed or not normally allowed to be in. And then they will show him around because he's a college student. They will tell him shit that other people wouldn't know the ins and outs of the operation because he's a college student and this is what he wants to do for a living. If he starts doing that now, he says he's got 2 years left of undergrad and one more year of master's. He's got 3 years of experience he can get under his belt if he starts doing it now, so that when he gets out of school, he can say, I've got 3 years of experience as a psychiatrist and I've got a bachelor's degree in psychiatry. Then he can get all the fucking patients he wants. But if he gets out of school first and says, I got a master's degree in psychiatry and I've never treated a patient, it's going to be hard to get your first patient. That's the hard part. Is on the psych floor. Thorazine. You're talking about morphine. You're talking about hitting it with some Ritalin. You're talking about get some lorazepam. You gotta start making some cocktails. You gotta pet him while he's in the head, like, don't. Shh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Hit him with another dose. He'll do clinical rotations. But when you start thinking about stuff like that, that's the part where I told Stephen that it's not going to be just 2 years because when you start talking about clinical rotations and shit like that, you start talking about 18 months of additional schooling that wasn't in your original curriculum so that you can use those rotations on your resume to pick up patients. There's a lot more to this shit. There's levels to this shit. There's hidden levels to this shit. Like when you go through the tunnel in Super Mario and you end up in that tunnel that's full of coins, there's hidden levels to this shit. Like when you get the leaf and you run really fast and you fly into the sky and you end up in that new level where it's all coins in the sky, there's hidden levels to this shit. And nobody tells you that there's hidden levels to this shit. I tell you there's hidden levels to this shit. So you think you've only got 12 levels to pass, and I'm telling you there's 15 levels to this shit. Because there's a bunch of hidden levels that you don't know about. I'm trying to tell you, I done been there. I done been there. I done been there. And it wasn't no long time ago. I done been there. You know what I mean? So you just gotta just double look, double check. Don't put a time limit on how long it takes for you to finish. Just recognize that you got to keep going until you finish, and just keep making money, make money for you the whole time you're in there. That's what you got to do. That's when you make it a benefit. Get your student credit cards, as many as you can get. Get the as many student loans as you can get. Invest them in brokerage accounts to make as much money as possible. And when you get out of college, that's when you get out of college as Dr. Phil with all this fucking money in the background. Bomb ass credit score and paying down all the student loans. That's the way. That's the best course of action. You can say at the very least that you went to college, you learned from this and that, and you ended up a multimillionaire because of the podcast. But you met a few good friends in college. You might even met your wife in college. So it is what it is. And she was your first patient. How does that make you feel? All right, all right, all right. I gotta wrap things up. So, special shout out to Michael, Joe Jack, FX Trader, OG Kicks, Uncle Andy, Steven, FX Trader. I really appreciate you guys coming to the show. We're going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. I almost forgot. I see Daniel Barris in there. Special shout out to Daniel for always diving in here. And Aztec 420 for always coming through, listening, even when he can't chime in the way I want him to chime in. We're going to be here tomorrow. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to be going through tomorrow because we're supposed to be talking about some 401k stuff for tomorrow. So make sure that you guys come through. If you haven't hit the notification buttons, do so. The shows are already listed for the rest of the week. And I was posting shows for September, so you're going to see a lot more shows for August and September up there as well. All of July should be posted except for the Monday night shows, because I like to do the Monday night shows the week of, so that is the most relevant information possible. But the rest of the week is up there. Tuesday through Sunday is up there for the rest of every week of the month of July and the majority of the weeks of August. So go through there, see what shows you're going to make yourself time for, and then make sure that you're here. Usually around 11:30, 11:45 Eastern Standard Time is when we tee the show off every night of the week. Just linger because we'll get here eventually. I don't see any unexpected trips in my future, so we should be here. Even if we don't start it on time, I will be sitting in this chair, wondering why it's not starting on time. So remember, ladies, while I give this information to the men to help them become higher value men, I do this not just to improve their financial lives. I also do this to help them improve their personal decision making skills, because their personal decision making skills directly impacts their income. But fellas, I tell you guys on a regular basis that you have to prioritize the things that are inside of your control that you don't like, and make the necessary changes to improve those things, and then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value individuals by prioritizing your 20 and 30-year plan, reverse engineering how you're going to go about utilizing that 20-year and 30-year plan, and then keep your eyes and ears open for the potential suitor with the right personality characteristics, drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, admiration, and integrity to achieve his own goals. Look at what his goals are, make sure there's long-term satisfaction goals and see how well his goals match up with your goals. Then you and him can get together and y'all can accomplish all goals together. Where I tell you guys on a regular basis how two people can make $1 million faster than one, but it requires both of you to be working towards the same style of long-term satisfaction, not short-term gratification. You don't have to have dreams in the same field. You just have to have dreams with the same end goal: retirement without financial responsibility, and mapping out how you're going to get there. Okay. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I really appreciate y'all lingering through all of the inconveniences of technology. I keep telling y'all technology is your friend until it's not. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. Just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.